Welcome back. I am attorney Nicholas Hicks, and today we are going to begin a new series entitled Debt Elimination. First of all, the information I'm going to provide to you is intended to be for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be legal advice. You should contact your attorney who's licensed to practice in New York State to see how this information might apply to your particular circumstances. Debt elimination. You know, so many of us are saddled with unbearable debt. Many of us have credit card debt that we're paying the minimum on, if that, and it's accumulating. We're not getting ahead. Many of us have medical bills or other kinds of debt that we are suffocating under. Many of us are being harassed by bill collectors by phone. A lot of times they break the law and make threats that are illegal threats. You're receiving bills and late notices in the mail, and your life is miserable financially. Today I want to spend a little time with you to talk about some of the myths or the misinformation that's out there concerning debt elimination. And I use the term debt elimination because the term bankruptcy strikes terror in so many people's hearts. And that's kind of where the myth or the misinformation begins. When we think of the word bankruptcy, we think of homelessness, we think of financial people who are financially destitute, people who are deadbeats. I mean, a whole host of negative information and images sort of surface in our minds when we hear the word bankruptcy. So I like to call it debt elimination because so many people are strapped with this negative image of what bankruptcy is. But we have to understand a couple of things. Just a few years ago, our government bailed out major financial institutions throughout America. These are the banking institutions that have all the money, all the cash, and our tax dollars, billions and billions of tax dollars of our money was used to bail out giants, financial giants. And yet, you and I are being told that debt elimination or bankruptcy is a bad thing, and that we should pick up a second or a third job. We should struggle. We should have sleepless nights. We should suffer from anxiety and depression. Marriages are broken up because of debt. Relationships are ruined because of debt. Many Americans are suffering, and they're suffering needlessly because they don't have good, accurate information. I can't begin to tell you how many clients over the years have said to me, Mr. Hicks, if I had known that this process of bankruptcy, of debt elimination, was so smooth, so quick, so painless, I would have done this years ago. I suffered for years for no reason at all. So let's talk about some of the myths surrounding bankruptcy, surrounding debt elimination, so that you understand what is and what isn't. I will never be able to get credit again. That's a huge fear. That simply isn't true. It isn't true because I know for a fact I've had clients who have filed for bankruptcy, and a few years later we closed on their new home that they purchased. I have repeat clients who've come back 2, 3, or more times to file bankruptcy, which means that they acquired new credit cards and new debt in order to go bankrupt. So it's not true. And we'll talk about rebuilding your credit somewhere in the series as well. So you can get new credit again. Um, Another falsehood. If I file bankruptcy, I'll lose my home. They'll take my home or they'll take my car. That isn't true. You can keep your home. You can keep automobiles. You can keep other kinds of personal property and still eliminate the debt that you don't want. The credit cards, the medical bills, the utility bills. You can get rid of those. In some cases, people do want to get rid of the car because it's just the car is no good and they're stuck with this car. No, we can get you out of that. Some people, even at rare instances, don't want to be in their homes anymore. Their mortgage is too much. Their job situations have changed. They just can't afford it anymore. Bankruptcy allows you to walk away from that debt. And we'll talk more about how those things work. One of the major misunderstandings about debt and credit is that people feel like, and they've said to me, you know, if I file bankruptcy, it'll ruin my credit. Well, remember, your credit rating is based on a score that is compiled from credit reporting agencies, the major ones being Experian, Equifax, TransUnion. They keep these credit reports, and on those reports are your accounts, credit card accounts, automobile payments, mortgage payments. If you have reached a point in your life where you feel as though you can no longer service or maintain that debt load that you have, chances are you have already fell behind in payments. Chances are you've already missed payments, or you're not making the minimum, in which case your credit has already been negatively impacted. The bankruptcy is not going to do more harm. In fact, in the long run, it'll do good. It'll actually help you clean that up. So chances are the credit rating has already been impacted. We're probably past that point already where you no longer have an 850 credit score, 800 credit score, or 700 credit score. So that usually isn't an issue. The real issue is being able to get rid of this debt and get a fresh, clean start without the pressure. Now, the other thing to understand as well is that old debt that's on your credit report, a lot of people are aware of the fact that negative information cannot stay on your credit report for more than 7 years. What many people fail to understand, however, is how that 7-year clock actually runs. The 7-year clock runs from what is called the date of last activity. Well, the date of last activity is the last time you made a payment on that debt. So let's say that you have a debt on the credit report that is a negative information. You haven't paid on this credit card for 6 years. That negative information is scheduled to come off your credit report in one more year, the 7th year. But you decide you're going to make a payment in year 6 for whatever reason. You come into some money, you say, I'm going to clean up my credit, I'm going to pay these bills off. What no one tells you is that when you make that payment in year 6, you have just reactivated that 7-year clock. So instead of that debt coming off in 1 year, you now have another 7 years to go. Worse still is, the information is still negative even though you're paying it off now, because all of those delinquencies are reported on your credit report. Repaying it or beginning new payments or paying it off doesn't eliminate the negative history that you've accumulated over the time that you weren't making payments. So that's a nasty little factor no one ever tells you. If your debt is a year or 2 or 3 past, or even months overdue or past due, you've already done the damage. And if you decide you don't want to eliminate the debt or go bankrupt, you're better off, as a side note, of letting that debt age off of your credit report. Don't make a payment, because by making a payment you lose twice. One, you're out of the money that you paid, and two, you are extending the time that the negative history can remain on your report. Therefore, your damaged credit rating lasts even longer because you paid, as opposed to the person who made no payments. Their credit score is better because the debt came off of their credit report after the 7th year. So these are some things that we don't know that affect us. Now, another misunderstanding about bankruptcy is that you'll be publicly humiliated. Well, it is true that bankruptcy is public record, okay? But no one's really interested in finding out whether you filed bankruptcy or not, except perhaps a prospective creditor, someone that you're applying for a loan or a lender. Well, a possible lender obviously will pull your credit report and take a look at that. But how many of you woke up yesterday morning and said, let me go down to the clerk's office and dig around and see if I know anybody who's filed bankruptcy, right? None of you have done that, because people don't think that way. People aren't interested in that. So even though it's public record, unless someone goes digging for it, your neighbor doesn't know. Now, the Buffalo News, I think they've stopped doing it now. For quite some time, they were publishing the recent bankruptcy filings in the newspaper. I can't imagine what good reason they would be doing that. In my opinion, I think they were just in bed with some of these lending institutions who want to embarrass people out of exercising their rights to file bankruptcy by publishing their names in the newspaper. I don't think that occurs anymore. I haven't seen it, so hopefully that practice has stopped. But the truth is, the rest of the world could care less that you are eliminating your debt. It's a process that happens pretty quietly, and it happens depending on what chapter you file. We'll talk about that in the future. It goes pretty quickly. So, again, you have to get that image out of your head about being destitute. Bankruptcy doesn't make you destitute. You're destitute right now because you can't handle your debt. You're trying to live and service a debt that you can't reasonably service anymore. Now, I don't take bankruptcy lightly. I don't say, I've had young kids come in here at 19 years old with a $3,000 credit card, and they say, "Oh, I want to file bankruptcy." And I tell them, get out. You can negotiate that debt. You're young. That's not something you really want to do. But for the rest of us, you have families, you have children. You are just in a circumstance where you no longer can repay that debt and live. Then that's exactly what the law was created to do. That's our bailout. That's the everyday working Americans' bailout. Because Congress understood that financial hardship should not have to be a way of life. If you've honestly incurred that debt, you didn't do it fraudulently, then you should be given an opportunity to wipe your slate clean. So you do yourself a favor by pushing all those negative images of what bankruptcy is out of your head. Learn the facts, and if this is something that you need, you do it. I've had people come in my office from all walks of life. I have filed bankruptcies for doctors, for other lawyers, for employed and unemployed people, young, old, every walk of life. None of us, almost none of us, are debt free. And if you find yourself in the circumstances where you need the help, that is what the help is for. So, first and foremost, forget all the myths that you've heard. call me or call another attorney and find out what the facts are. But if you are suffering under debt, you don't have to suffer. You don't have to lose your homes. You don't have to lose your automobiles. You don't have to lose your job. You can maintain your lifestyle. You can keep your life and get rid of your debt. That's what it's designed to do. So when I come back next time, we're going to talk about the different kinds of bankruptcies, and I'm going to kind of give you an overview of what the process is like. Thank you for listening. Please go on to our YouTube channel, subscribe, like, share the information with your friends and family. Until next time, I'm Attorney Nicholas Hicks. Thank you for watching.